Good morning on this Sunday, November 19th, and welcome to the Georgia Gang. Violence erupts again at a protest over the Atlanta police training facility. Also, the trial date is set that could decide the future of Georgia's voting machines. And debate heats up over transit on the Beltline. Melita, Phil, Theron, and Janelle are all here. The debate and discussion begin right now.
From the Fox 5 studios, the Georgia Gang starts now.
A violent clash between police and protesters over the Atlanta police training facility. Police say none of the protesters was able to actually get onto the construction site, but they did bring bolt cutters and other tools with them. DeKalb police deployed tear gas and flashbangs at the protesters. About 150 people marched from the Gresham Park Recreation Center, cutting down Constitution Road before tactical officers confronted them in front of a fire station. The protesters remained defiant against the construction of a $90 million police and fire training facility. Some wore gas masks and hazmat suits and pledged civil disobedience.
This is a group today that left Gresham Park prepared to breach the site, prepared to do harm, prepared to do destruction.
It takes many tactics and strategies in order to stop this from being built.
Time is of the essence for the activists as work on the facility is already well underway, with the city refusing to accept a 116,000 signature petition to put it on the ballot.
It is not a time for cowardness, that we have to make choices. You're either with the oppressed or with the oppressor.
Governor Kemp talked about the issue again this week, calling for the business community and Democrats to voice their support. Kemp said at the Atlanta Chamber's annual meeting, this is a simple issue, quote, you either support training and equipping our police, firefighters, and first responders, or you don't. Phil, to you first this week. It's clear that these protesters, these activists are not giving up or going away.
Well, that's right. And we've seen this for over a year and a half with this opposition. And some of them are sincere protesters, yes, but most of them are hard left. They're anarchists. They're violent. They're going after contractors that are doing work there. So I think Attorney General Carr and, of course, DeKalb County authorities are trying to crack down. They need to crack down harder. And I think Governor Kemp is absolutely right. I think the Democrats, with the exception, obviously, of Mayor Andre Dickens, who has been great in standing up for this needed facility for training. But where's Nikema Williams, the chairwoman of the state Democratic Party? She's not saying anything. A lot of the top officials in the legislature are not saying anything who are Democrats. That's a sad, sad commentary, and it underscores the fact that all too many, not all too many Democrats are just weak when it comes to public safety.
Theron, I got to go to you on this then. Mayor Andre Dickens, as Phil mentioned, has voiced his full support. What are you advising your fellow Democrats on this issue?
Well, I think that, you know, this is not a partisan issue. This is an issue that all of us in Georgia and around the country should be worried about, because you have peaceful protesters who, as Phil mentioned, most of them are peaceful, but then you do have some folks there that there were weapons found and you know, and different things. And so this whole narrative about Democrats not being strong on public safety is just blatantly false. I mean, I'm going to say it today on the show as a proud Democrat all my life. We are against defunding the police. We believe in public safety. We believe in supporting our women and men in uniform, and also firefighters and first responders. But there also needs to be a conversation about training. That's it. It's just a conversation, and then you know, once the conversation is had, which the mayor has done, we'll be good. But Lori, real quick, because I know I don't want to run out of time, I just want to give a special shout out to the DeKalb County Police Department. One of the things that sort of is not getting told is that this was a unpermitted march, and so it was an unlawful march. The protesters, they did gather peacefully. Yes, there were smoke bombs found, metal grinders found, but ultimately this was a effort by the police department in a multi-jurisdictional way to really disperse this crowd who were going down Constitutional Road towards the training center, and they didn't have the proper permit. There were no arrests made, no injuries, and there was only one arrest that was made, but it was unaffiliated with this march. And so while you still have a Democratic sort of led county, particularly led by Chief Ramos, there is a level of like, hey, we're going to make sure that you can't have an unpermitted march, but the goal is to make sure that life safety, save lives, no one gets injured, no one gets murdered, prevails. And so I think that's what we saw happen.
Melita, talk about the process of where we are with the signatures. I mean, work is getting done on the site right now. There's these signatures that were collected. It's being fought out in the courts, but it's kind of a mixed message. We remind our viewers like where we are in all of this.
Well, where we are is waiting for the courts to rule about the legitimacy of the petition drive to begin with, and for the city to determine whether the signatures on the petitions were legitimate. So the question about whether it becomes a ballot issue in either March or May relies upon those two determinations. I think the other thing to say is the fact that 12 cement trucks belonging to a company that had nothing to do with the construction of the police training facility. They really had just supplied some concrete for a road near the training facility. That those 12 cement trucks were burned to a crisp by protesters is absolutely uncalled for, and we should all condemn vandalism of any sort which is against the law and is not a peaceful form of protest.
Janelle.
So much to say, but I'll say it like this. You know, the reason why I believe this continues to become a partisan topic is because the individuals that are protesting, whether they're the ones that are rioting or the ones that are actually peacefully protesting, typically identify as Democrat or liberal or progressive. That's typically what they're saying. They're walking around, they're holding these trees, they're doing everything except for taking care of the safety of people. I get tired of hearing us prioritize the climate, the trees, the dogs, the structures, everything except for human beings. That's what this is about. It's about creating a facility where we can adequately train our law enforcement officers and our first responders so that they can take care of people in communities. So why they keep doing this, I have no idea. It's quickly starting to turn into a conspiracy theory to me, because I'm like, there's got to be something else behind this. But at the same time, I am happy to see, and I can't say that all Democrats, because I am happy to see that Mayor Dickens is standing up against this, and that he's walking, and we see the mayor and the governor walking together on this. But it's really frustrating, because it's just like, you can't say that you're doing this for people and you're protecting people and this is all about this, and then you're turning around and you're prioritizing issues above people again and again and again.
All right, I'm going to move on because we have talked this one to death and we will continue to be talking about it. So, but this was an interesting development. Republicans are gloating. The MLB does an about-face announcing the Atlanta Braves will host the 2025 All-Star Game. You may remember the MLB pulled the All-Star Game after Georgia leaders changed the state's voting laws. Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger saying the MLB finally overturned a bad call. Janelle.
Shout out to Ron Acuna Jr. for getting married, so congratulations on that, and then for becoming our MVP, which we all knew that was going to happen. I don't think anyone was shocked about that. But I think I'm going to leave it with this, and let me say really, really quickly. I believe Governor Kemp said it best when he said, Georgia's voting laws haven't changed, but it's good to see that the MLB's misguided understanding of them has. That's all that really needs to be said. I'm glad that they finally came to their senses, and I look forward to going to the game.
Theron, is that all that has to be said?
Look, I've said it probably almost 24 times on this show. Democrats, we're not to blame for the MLB deciding
Yes, you are.
No, because
Stacey Abrams?
No, let me finish.
Oh, man.
All right, I'm back. All right, I know y'all missed me, but I'm back. No, we're not to blame for the reason why this all started. This all started because Republicans lost. They came back to the legislature and they started changing rules, and that's where we got the Senate bill, right? Now, then Democrats amplified that move. All right, so let's take it in order and said that we believe that it was basically restrictions put in place, and it was a huge debate, and the NLB made a call, and we call balls and strikes all the times on the show. But look, as a Democrat and as a Georgian, but more importantly for those East Cobb, West Cobb, South Cobb, North Cobb business owners who now going to be able to make money that was taken away from them, shout out to them. But ultimately, look, bring them back. I think this is good for the state, but I just want to remind our viewers that it was the Republicans changing the voting which led to this decision.
Oh,
not
All right,
Democrats.
Phil, go ahead.
Well, you know, you always paint a wonderful fairy tale, and I give you credit for that. But it was the hard left, and it was the Democrats that said voter suppression is occurring in Georgia. And of course, that's the other myth that we had shattered. And so you quoted Kemp, Janelle. It was a great quote. There is no voter suppression. People are voting more than ever. And I think that MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred really should have apologized. He's a liberal weasel who doesn't have any intellectual honesty. He could have apologized for this, but he didn't. But that's okay. We got it.
Oh, Melita.
Well, Phil does love to name call, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
It's called the truth.
Shall we just go to the break?
Nothing else to say on this. All right, up next, a trial is set that could decide the fate of Georgia's touchscreen voting machine. Stay tuned.
Have a question or comment for the Georgia Gang? Email them at georgiagang@foxtv.com.
In an election security lawsuit over Georgia's voting equipment, U.S. District Judge Amy Totenberg suggested that two sides come together to work out a compromise. Plaintiffs are opposed to the touchscreen voting machines. If there is no compromise, a trial will begin in January. Melita, to you first.
Well, I think the judge telling them to compromise should send a very strong signal that both sides need to come to the table ready to make a deal and avoid this trial. But I also think that the Secretary of State's spokesman saying we don't negotiate with election deniers is a mischaracterization of what's going on here. The people who are challenging the security of the election system and the fact that the QR code, which cannot be read with the naked eye, is what is being counted by the machines, are not election deniers. They are issuing a clarion call about the security of future elections. And if you read through the very lengthy opinion, I mean, the judges are practically writing books these days in these 102 and 300 page opinions. If you read through the opinion, you see that this judge has cause for great concern. And that should be what's happening at the negotiating table between now and the date of that trial.
Phil, Judge Totenberg made it clear that she cannot mandate the use of hand-marked paper ballot to require a statewide voting system replacement for 2024, even if the plaintiffs win the trial.
That's right, but if you read that ruling that she did, let's take Melita's point about the QR code. She said that ought to be gotten rid of. And Raffensperger comes off terribly, our Secretary of State. The judge just rips him to shreds and cites cybersecurity experts saying that flat out that this is not a secure system. And Raffensperger keeps saying it's secure. Well, I think there should be a compromise, and I think the Secretary of State ought to be compromising on some of these things. And we need to have some fixes, and even the Senate Republicans are echoing this. We need to have some fixes on a system that clearly needs some fixes.
All right, moving on. In the Fulton County 2020 elections case, 4 former allies of Donald Trump who have already pleaded guilty recorded testimony with prosecutors. Well, those video interviews, known as proffers, were shared with media outlets this week. Janelle, the judge in this case restricted the release of some evidence after these leaks.
Yes, because these leaks were very interesting. What I'm looking for is the response from those who once supported these individuals, because now I'm hearing people kind of backtrack and call them all kinds of, names and saying that they are, weak and just all these other things. And I always find it interesting how you can go from someone being trustworthy to now not being trustworthy within like a matter of seconds. My takeaway, though, from all of this is, as conservatives, we have to make sure that we pay attention to hypocrisy. We support the judicial system. We have to stop saying things like we want to tear down the system. No, you want to remove some people that are a part of the system. But to me, when you say you want to tear down a system, it's no different than saying the system is racist. A system is a process that's been happening for centuries. The system is in place in order to protect all of us. So yeah, I understand that we can elect people, and remove who runs the system. But at the end of the day, we've got to decide if we're going to stand on top of our judicial support of the judicial system, or are we going to go back and forth and kind of walk in this hypocrisy. And so that's what I'm seeing with
Theron.
this.
Janelle makes a really good point. And look, these people who have not only some of the four that pled guilty, there's others yet to be seen, they were sort of like portrayed as heroes, right? Because what this evidence has shown us, and I'm going to take it to a whole nother level dealing with the former president, it shows us that we're dealing with a very unstable man. Because even when he was told that this was not lawful, that this election result was fair, there was no pathway for him to win Georgia, you could then not overturn democracy. The testimonies will, I think, echo that he still believed that he won the election. So therefore, whether or not he did it or not directly, you know, he's innocent until proven guilty. Don't rest a judgment on this. But did he sort of continue himself to spread this false narrative, this lie, that there were votes out here that weren't counted, there were people who were, you know, having dead people vote? I mean, all these things are going to come out in these testimonies. And I said it on the show, and Phil remembers this. When that pressure starts to get on these defendants, they're going to continue to take plea deals, because this has disrupted not only their professional lives, it's having a tremendous toll on them personally as well.
Phil, does it also, though, get to this frame of mind of where Trump was, that he truly did believe?
Well, yeah, it does get to the frame of mind. And I think what's crazy, in my opinion, and the opinion of a lot of legal experts on both sides of the political aisle, is the fact that these four co-defendants are actually, if they're supposedly trying to overturn the election and are lying and deniers and all this kind of stuff, they got probation. And I didn't realize this until I read up on this the other day. They actually can have their charges wiped out. And so if this is some sort of massive conspiracy, why aren't they getting the book thrown at them? I don't see anything in the leaked documents that really lay a glove on Donald Trump either. And to say a man is unstable, that's outrageous and libelous. I think he actually believed it. When you have all these questions about that are going to you, if people say this is wrong, we need to look into it, you might agree with it. And so I think that Trump didn't have a glove laid on him on this.
Hey, you just called somebody a liberal weasel.
I was just about to say that. I was like, my unstable was me trying to be politically correct. The things that you said about people on the show, yes. Unstable is a very politically correct word.
Let's just be clear.
You have a right to say it like I do.
Well, the most damning of the video evidence we saw was when Jenna Ellis talked about being told the boss is not going to leave under any circumstances. We're going to stay in power. I mean, that part was pretty damning. But the thing we all have to remember is that these four Profer videos are just small pieces of an overall really big 500 to 1,000 piece puzzle. And we don't see the full picture. I did have to laugh when I saw that Sidney Powell said that Rudy Giuliani had called her every name in the book and said she was the worst lawyer he'd ever seen. That's a little bit like being called ugly by a pig with poorly applied lipstick and bad hair dye.
Well, that was a Southern insult.
Well, the other thing is, I know that he said he wouldn't leave, right, and that no matter what, he wasn't going to leave, but he did end up leaving. So
He did. I think, I just wanted to point out, too, that when you take these plea deals, I found out that you are initially saying that I can no longer evoke my Fifth Amendment. So, in other words, you have to answer every single question. So, Truthfully, yeah. Yes, because there are a lot of people who are like, well, why are they talking now? They're turning on the president. And I'm like, well, no, they can't say I plead the Fifth anymore.
Well, but plea deals are a way for any prosecutor in any kind of case to get testimony from the bottom of the pyramid to put the people at the top of the pyramid in jail.
That's true, but you can't use hearsay like you're pointing out. So-and-so said this about Trump. That's hearsay. It'll be thrown out.
All right, folks, up next, 20 high school football players baptized after practice, their coach fired. We'll discuss.
Join the discussion on the Georgia Gang Facebook page and watch past episodes on the Georgia Gang YouTube channel.
Tetano County High School's football coach, Isaac Furl, has been terminated from his coaching position. This decision comes after he organized a Christian baptism for some of his players after a practice session. 20 players were baptized behind the high school football field. While Farrell is no longer coaching, he is still employed as a teacher. Janelle, to you first on this.
So, Georgia has the highest, was a part of having a higher number of mental illness amongst youth. 15% of youth ages 12 to 17 are suffering with major depression. We're seeing youth just struggling all across the board emotionally. In a time like that, I think that to say that this coach is wrong for allowing these students to be introduced to faith, to me, is just ridiculous. As a believer myself, I do feel that this is a part of the course. It's par for the course. I don't think the coach is upset because I think he expects it. You learn to expect it. I know in the Bible it says the world will hate you if you try to stand up for what's true and what's right. So I just hope that this coach stays in these students' lives, even though he's no longer coaching, but that he does continue to have a relationship with these families.
Melita, I did see an interview with one of the moms, and she was supportive of it. So I don't know how many folks, though, are protesting against it.
Well, there is a really good reason in this country for having a separation between church and state. And the educational system, the public educational system, is an arm of the state. Coaches have a really huge influence over the lives of their players. And to bring a religious ceremony onto the back of a football field after a football practice in a public school is just wrong. It should not have happened. And the fact that he was fired as a coach is an appropriate response by the local school board.
Phil.
I would have admonished him, and I'm not clear when the baptism occurred. Was it on school property or not on school property? It was behind the stadium. I'm not clear on that. It shouldn't have been done on school property. That would have been maybe the point there. I'm totally in sympathy with what Janelle just said, but firing him was a little bit much, in my opinion. The courts have ruled, Melita, that you can have prayers if the players organize it. I've seen it at Sanford Stadium, for example, and other public fields. You can also have religious. You can have Christian groups and other groups, religious groups, on your property with permission. So I think it was too harsh to fire the man.
Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't mandatory.
Well, real quick, if you look at what this Tatnall County Board of Education said, they said the safety and security of our students is paramount, right? So to your point, whether it was on the ground or not, but I mean, you have to think about the safety and security of the students. However, if you look at what the parents said, Lori, to your point, she said, I was extremely proud of him being her son. He made a decision of his own. And so I think that, as a football player at Clark Central High School with Billy Henderson, I don't think we ever went that far to tell us, hey, we're going to have a baptism after football practice. But to Janelle's point, whatever religion you want.
What's the harm? No,
but I think that you can, the thing about football is a team sport, right? And it's deeply rooted in you depending on your fellow men. And now in some cases, it's a team sport, coaches and everybody to be involved. And then, we had people on the team that actually would be very open about their Christianity. And we had some folks that honestly, I don't think they ever really wanted to talk about it. And so it's just a balance, whether did they get parental consent? Because I think some parents would have said, no, I'm worried about the safety of my child doing it. Or some parents, like this parent, I think her name was Latifah Johnson, said, hey, I'm glad that my son has decided to give his life to Christ.
It looked like it was all voluntary.
Yeah, but I think that it was a lesson learned here, and I think the school boards will put some policies in place going forward.
Well, I mean, it's the age-old fight over religious freedom.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
All right, I'm going to move on, but we don't have a lot of time for this, but we will revisit this one because this is important. A debate is brewing over transit on the Beltline and the expansion of the streetcar. The group, Better Atlanta Transit, is questioning plans to invest $3 billion to build rail that could take decades to finish and disrupt neighborhoods along the Beltline. Melita, this is turning into quite a debate.
It is, and I thought it was very interesting that the op-ed that we are all focusing on was co-authored by Matt Brofman, the developer and CEO of Jamestown Properties at Ponce City Market, and Renee Glover, who's a visionary leader. And they're saying, finish the Beltline, then think about the transit. And I think that's a very good point. And then the other thing is, I think that the Beltline has exceeded expectations for the kind of traffic it would have. And to add transit would then destroy the experience of all the people who already enjoy it.
And we talked about the expansion of the streetcar. I got to leave it there because I'm out of time, and I want to leave extra time for winners and losers too. So, but I promise to revisit this because it is a debate. Up next, winners and losers. Stay tuned, everyone.
Time Time now for the week's winners and losers.
All right, Theron, you've been away from us for a while, so we'll start with you.
I want to start off by really, in sort of a sad note, but really highlighting the life and legacy of Ratcliffe Bailey. This is an artist who everyone in Atlanta, quite frankly, all around the world revered. He had great art, talented mind, but more importantly, what he did in the civic community has touched so many people's lives. So I definitely want to send my condolences to his family. Also, I want to give a shout out to Laura Kelly and her mom, Julie Kelly. Phil, I got a chance to interview with Laura this week about redistricting. So she's at the journalism school at Grady School
Nice.
in UGA. So shout out to Laura and Kelly. And then lastly, Walter Vincent, who has just been promoted to the Assistant General Manager of Business Diversity and Government Affairs at the world's busiest, most efficient airport, Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. Walter is a fan of the show, has been with the city for a long time, so congratulations.
Phil.
Well, I've got a loser, and I'm very disappointed in U.S. Senator Raphael Warnock. What happened last Tuesday in the U.S. Senate, all the Republicans decided, we are going to do our aid to Israel package because it's an emergency. Hamas, the terrorist group, invaded Gaza, and so Warnock blocked it, and then got some of his allies to block it, and so it died because Warnock called for a quorum call. So, could he be for it? It is true. You claim that, but it is true. That's my loser.
Melita.
Well, I think you've got some of your facts wrong,
No,
but
I
we'll
don't.
debate that another time.
Debate it now.
The newly certified municipal election results around the state reveal some winners who reflect the growing diversity of the state. You had the first Latina clerk of Superior Court, Clark County, first black woman on the City Council of Duluth, first person of color on the Turkey City Council, and the first ever black woman or black mayor of Palmetto.
Hey, you got them all in.
And congratulations to Juliana McConnell, a friend of mine. She was elected to the Suwanee City Council post 1 this past Tuesday. 52% of the vote with 3 in the race. I also share the condolences with Ratcliffe Bailey on behalf of his friend Mary Lofton. And then thank you to everyone who participated in our very first Candid with the Candidates town hall with Asa Hutchinson. It was wonderful. 90% of the attendees were young people, so kudos.
All right, I'm going to wish my dad a very happy 81st birthday today. So make it a great one, everyone. See you next week.